Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Inside Track, EchoBase's weekly handicapping podcast, sponsored by FanDuel Racing, where we give our analysis, picks, and wagers for a couple of the weekend's top races. Be sure to download that FanDuel app and bet today. I'm your host, Ben Kudla, and today I welcome back the host of Doubling Down podcast, Colin Sheehan, on the show to give his thoughts on the Belmont Stakes. Plus, we each give you our daily double ticket for the Delaware Derby and the Delaware Oaks. So follow Colin on X at CSheehan45, as well as this Doubling Down podcast on Trust the Profits YouTube, which just had its 100th episode last week for the Belmont. Congratulations. Always great to have you on the show, Colin. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, always happy to be here. That's right. We just did 100 episodes and looking forward to the Inside Tracks 100th episode. You kind of hit that milestone. You look back and it goes by so fast, and then B, you realize how much work it takes to do that. So congratulations on your trek through the Inside Track. And here's to another 100 episodes on Doubling Down. We have some big things in store for the show, as we're going to get some new distribution and new games to play along with us, new swag, a new logo, all kinds of good stuff. Because I figure if I make it through 100, I got to keep it growing it, right?
Absolutely. No, 100. That's impressive. We're at 45 right now, for everybody wondering, on the Inside Track. And yeah, no, it does take a lot. So kudos to you. And you have little kids and a full-time job as well. You somehow squeak it in. So please check that out on Trust the Profits YouTube Doubling Down podcast. So the dust has settled here after 27 stakes races throughout the 2025 Belmont Stakes Festival at Saratoga. Some unforgettable performances last week. She Feels Pretty, Acara, Raging Torrent, Patch Adams, Nitrogen, Deterministic. List goes on. Sovereignty became the first Derby winner in history to skip the Preakness and win the Belmont. This is Godolphin's second all-time Belmont win and Belmont's second Belmont win and Junior Alvarado's first ever Belmont Stakes win. So, Colin, I know you picked Sovereignty in both the Derby and the Belmont. You won big on Sovereignty, so excellent pick, my man. How'd you kind of land on him in the Belmont?
Yeah, he's been my number one horse for a really, really long time. It's nice to be able to say that and watch him come through and finish the Derby in the way that he did at a price. It makes you look really smart, especially for those of us that have these podcasts, that those are the ones you want to hit. What was kind of stood out to me, Ben, was just how formful these three races ended up being. And it wasn't really anything shocking if you just didn't try to get sneaky crazy, which sometimes it's very easy to do. And you go to the Derby and you say, pick a long shot because that's what's going to happen. And I think through the prep races, it was really stood out to me that the horses from Florida were really a step above all of the other East Coasts. I'll call them divisions or locations, however you want to look at it. And journalism was clearly the best of the West. And when it came to the Derby, I just kind of had Sovereignty higher than journalism. And I didn't back off of that going into the Belmont. The horse that I kind of was falling in love with was Baeza, because I thought that there was a higher upside for Baeza. And it was pretty interesting that they just finished basically the exact same way that they did in the Derby, with Sovereignty blown by journalism in the stretch and Baeza getting up, obviously not at their level. But it's those three horses and I think everybody else in this 3-year-old crop. And at least at this point, Sovereignty is a step above journalism. And I think the rests for Sovereignty was also advantageous. We talked about it over on our channel as far as a horse like Sovereignty. Everyone made a big deal of him skipping the Preakness, but throughout the whole year, how often do we look and kind of track what trainers have scheduled for horses when they keep to that schedule? And I know this is obviously a unique situation when you're skipping the Preakness and doing what he did. But that kind of really weighed into me ultimately deciding that this was a race for Sovereignty. This was the plan. And when you skip the Preakness in order to stick to your plan, to me, that's really telling in what they thought that they had in Sovereignty. He was back on his home, went right back up to Saratoga after the Derby and was kind of just sitting there waiting for journalism, who had that really, running the Derby and then the effort that we saw in the Preakness coming up to the Belmont still ran huge. I mean, you would expect to see a drop off, but journalism that's nothing to be shy of just being a little bit lesser skilled than Sovereignty, who just was awesome again. And it was such great to see once he gets going in the stretch, man. That is poetry in motion.
That's a great way to say it. You know what I really loved watching that race is, journalism, like you said, finished second, valiant second, running all three legs of the Triple Crown, and Rispoli just giving him all the pats, all the love in the world. You just love to see that as well. But fantastic pick on Sovereignty, and yeah, literally the exact same order of finish as well, not the exact, but the top three order of finish for the Belmont. So we're gonna just watch this replay here. We'll just turn the sound down. And honestly, this is kind of how basically everyone expected this race to go. Rodriguez going, Crudo going, Uncaged going as well. I was a little bit surprised by his in between horses. Not as far back as I thought he was going to be, but it is still interesting.
Yeah, and we talked about how the three results of the three races ended up being so formful. This is exactly how you kind of envisioned the race starting off, was Rodriguez, and there was a lot to do about Rodriguez. A lot of people I kind of talked to thought that he could get on the front end here and steal this race. And I'll tell you, when I was watching it live, I went, okay, 23-2, 27-5. I was like, uh-oh, this definitely has that.
Getting scary.
The one thing that I noticed right here immediately was Sovereignty. I've always said Sovereignty has more tactical speed than I think people gave him credit for. And here he is, just letting a lot closer to the front end. And I when I saw him, I said, yes, 23-47, but look where Sovereignty is. He's in a great position right here. And my concern about Rodriguez was, obviously he had healed from the scratch on the Derby, but I think he only had one work, maybe two. To me, it was just coming in against the conditioning of what these other horses had done, in most notably Baeza's Sovereignty, and even journalism. Sometimes horses are just running when they're at the top of their game. And right here, you see journalism gets the jump on Sovereignty, and I'm thinking, okay, Sovereignty might be in a little bit of trouble. We'll see if that conditioning ends up being the difference. But then also that turn of foot that Sovereignty showed back in Florida and at the Kentucky Derby, and we almost
literally I'm sorry to interrupt, but then look at the stretch. He gets the jump first, and here comes Sovereignty. I mean, exactly like the Derby.
Right there is where that turn of foot from Sovereignty is so impressive. It was like 5 steps and boom, he's on you, and 5 more steps and he's past you.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at this finish. Honestly, if this is a mile and a half, I think he would have won as well.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Do you think that he would have won the Preakness if he ran?
Yes, that's a great question. So I had always kind of envisioned it setting up for Sovereignty, journalism, Sovereignty, even if Sovereignty was in that middle leg. You always, going into the Preakness, you kind of always think of how much better it is for that forward speed. It's a position you want to be over the last 20 years. If you're in those first 2 legs of the Preakness, you really got a pretty good shot. Journalism kind of overcame that a little bit. I thought that race might have been a play against him coming in off the quick turnaround. But after seeing what he did in the Belmont, being able to be forwardly placed, it's going to be that what if question forever, right? And thankfully, I don't have the stake in the game, or I don't train him, and it's not something that it's fun for us to do as fans. But I think for Belmont and for Godolphin, it may be weighing on their heads a lot more. The what if? What if we ran him? What would have happened? But they have a plan for him. It's probably Travers to Breeders' Cup to Dubai Cup, and then I'll be happy if we can get some more races out of him out of that. But that might be what you expect for a career for Sovereignty. Just an awesome racehorse. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And if he's in the Travers, I told you I don't go up for Travers Day, but maybe that'll be one that I need to sneak away for.
Oh, for real. I do believe that Belmont said they might go for the Jim Dandy, might not. It's kind of up in the air, see how he's training. But he said he'll probably need a race around then anyway. But Sovereignty did earn a career best 106 equibase speed figure for his performance. Became the first horse in North America to surpass $4 million in earnings this year. Godolphin surpassed $10 million in North American earnings already this year. They're on record to break their $20.2 million record that they set last year. So congratulations to all and everyone who made some money. So,
and let me answer that question. One you asked about the Preakness, because now let's put Sovereignty in that race. It's let's just say the race runs as we saw it, right? I think you can say absolutely Sovereignty wins the Triple Crown, because he's not going to find himself in that rail and all that trouble, and he's not going to fade in the stretch like Gosker did for journalism, right? So if journalism is in all that trouble, I envision Sovereignty being on that with Gosker. Sovereignty blows by Gosker, and journalism isn't catching him. So if we were to just plop Sovereignty in the race the exact way the Preakness happened, which obviously you can't do, but I think that would have been really, really well for Sovereignty, probably being your Triple Crown winner.
That's a great take. Yeah, no, definitely that stretch run with that trouble. Yeah, to get past that trouble and then get past sovereignty. Yeah, that would
Wouldn't
be
have
tough.
happened.
Would be tough. I did pick Baeza. I was a little bit bummed on his performance, but I didn't bet him straight. I just thought that was the easiest try in the world, so I just did a $10 try. And that was honestly about the only bet I made that day because I was so busy with work. I didn't really have time to bet a whole lot as well. And I know you won an Emmy on Saturday, so big congratulations for all your work there. But let's get into some handicapping. A fantastic day up there at Delaware Park. I think one of the coolest paddocks, in my opinion. With the first running of the Delaware Derby, as well as the Grade 3 Delaware Park Oaks Race 8 and Race 9 on the card on Saturday. And since we have the king of doubles himself on the show, figured Colin and I will each give our daily double ticket for the Oaks and Derby. So here we go. The inaugural running of the Delaware Derby, a mile and a 16th on the dirt for 3-year-olds. Race 8 on Saturday's car with a 4:19 post. Nice field of 11 with Graham Motion and Brad Cox, each with an entry. Who is on your ticket, Colin?
Yeah, you got to start with, there's some of these horses that are coming back from the Derby Trail, such as the number 3 Admiral Dennis and the number 11 Omaha. Those are two horses that we've seen over leading up to the Kentucky Derby. I just really thought that for Admiral Dennis, this was a huge class relief. The races that he's been running in, including the Rebel, the Toyota Bluegrass, Grade 2, Grade 1 races, and didn't make a fool of himself. It finished 3 lengths behind Burnham Square. Burnham Square is a horse I think very highly of, 6th place, but was only it was 7 lengths behind Coal Battle. But those class ratings of 104, 98, to me, that kind of really sets this horse apart from the others. And it's these situations that when Brad Cox and Machado come in with a horse like Admiral Dennis on a huge class relief, for me, that's a tough one to leave off. I know he's the favorite. We'll try to find some value in the second leg, but if you're trying to use the value in the second leg, you don't want to get beat with a horse with this huge drop off. I didn't single. I think there's some other places you could go in here. I'm not going to go too deep when you use Admiral Dennis. The thing I always talk about on my show is finding value and trying to bet it properly. I think it's a lot easier to do for me with a double than going along pick 4s and pick 5s. There was 2 horses who I thought you could throw in here as well. Very intrigued by the number 2 Academy. IRAD has a bunch of mounts on this card. And Academy here is one that will be on the front end. And Oscar Performance Babies do well on the turf. This horse proved that in that September race at Colonial, going wire to wire. They put him on the synthetic at Turfway, finishing 10 lengths behind in that maiden special weight. Now, keep in mind, in that Colonial race, he was disqualified and placed second. But then he comes back. They put him on the slop at Delaware and runs a fairly similar race, but the speed figure jumps up to a 103 Equibase. You train by Graham Motion. He won. He's coming in. He won off the layoff, in that last time as well. So you're getting him second off here. And he also, I use the race lens angles that you can very easily put into Equibase. I think they're great. One of them for me is, I try to highlight, is it a possible peaking form? And when a horse runs its best Equibase speed figure and comes back in less than 30 days, it has a success score of over 7. That's kind of a number that I like to hone in on. The ROI is a minus 15, but sometimes you got to look beyond that. And I looked at the 24% win percentage out of almost 5,000 starts is where it gets you that high success score. And so the number 2 Academy at 6-1, I think is a nice price to include on my ticket.
Love it, love it. I think you're gonna add the 6 as well in there, Kentucky Outlaw.
Yeah, I think we both are. If I remember, you said that this is one that you're interested in. I'll leave the stats for you for the trainer. But another case here where I thought this horse could get on the front end. The Equibase speed figure of 95s, both at a mile and a 70 twice over the last few months, to me kind of shows where this horse is kind of a landing spot for some speed figures. Is 3 for 4. It's been on the front end and going wire to wire in the horse's 3 victories. You fear that if a horse like Academy pushes this horse on the front end, he might fold like he did 2 back. But he had some trouble in that Federico Tessio at Laurel, which is a race that could have got you into the Preakness. Pay Billy won that race, as we know, but he was steadied on that day. And so I think Kentucky Outlaw was interesting for me, not only because of those reasons. You get Paco aboard. I'll give the dam stats.
Yeah.
The dam Stend at the dam Fend on dirt routes is 3 for 8, 38% win percentage, was a positive ROI of 61%. And then the trainer stats jumped at me, but I know you saw those too. So why don't you tell them why that jumped out at you?
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess before I begin, Colin and I have the exact same top 3 horses for the inaugural Delaware Derby. But yeah, this 6 is really interesting outwork colt, trained by Felisa Dunn. Past 3 years, she only has 88 starts, but she wins at 33%. All races, 65% in the money. This year alone, she's winning at 39% all races, 12 wins from 31 starts. I mean, just like, wow. Wow. So, and also kind of interesting, Kentucky Outlaw was her first career stakes horse and stakes winner as well. So, like you said, it's he's a speedy horse, ranked first in here with an average speed of a 90, 3 for 4, won all 3 of his starts by a combined 15 lengths. Broke his maiden at Parks by 7 3/4 lengths, going 6.5 from the dirt, earning 88 Equibase speed figure on career debut. Wins an allowance optional at Parks next time out by 5 3/4 lengths, going a mile and 70 yards, earning a 95. Definitely disappointing 5th in that Dederico Tessio Stakes at Laurel, but comes right back last time out and May 10th, runs another 95 Equibase speed figure, winning the Long Branch Stakes at Monmouth, going a mile 70 yards with a switch to blinkers on, which I thought was a little interesting. We'll wear blinkers on Saturday as well. 3 bullet works in a row at Parks coming into this race. 6-1. Wow. I like that. I like that. But Academy was my top pick, I'd say. An Oscar Performance gelding for Grand Motion, with Irad Ortiz coming into ride here. He has 9 scheduled mounts on the Saturday card at Delaware. In the past 5 years, he only has 3 starts at Delaware with a win aboard Dunbar Road in 2020. First time riding this horse for Irad, he wins at a solid 22%. First time riding from 3,997 starts. Academy almost broke his maiden, like you said, and was DQ'd back there, and then goes to Turfway for the winner after 6-month layoff. Just does not take that all weather. Takes another 2 months off before absolutely dominating a maiden special way at Delaware last time out, beating a 3-2 favorite, by the way, by 4.5 lengths, going that mile and 70 yards in the slop. Ranked first in early, middle, and late pace rating. 115 late pace rating in a black type race. I think Grand Motion is just fantastic. Past 3 years, he wins at 29% with horses second after a layoff. Delaware Park, 6 wins from 21 starts, 62% in the money. In the past 3 years, he wins at 42% with 3-year-olds on the dirt at Delaware Park. 8 wins from 19 starts. So could be a very dangerous horse. And again, 6-1. I'm loving it. But like you said, the class relief on Admiral Dennis, he definitely deserves that 3-1. For the Brad Cox stable with Juan Machado coming in to ride. His only ride is Admiral Dennis in the Delmar Derby and Margie's Intention in the Oaks, both for Brad Cox. And like you said, some start competition, which makes him ranked first in class here with a 92. This horse can be really tough. Cox winning at 27% non-graded stakes races in the past 3 years with horses of 3, increasing Equibase speed figures. This horse went from a 77 to an 83 to a 93 to a 99 last time out. Actually, oddly enough, Cox only has 5 starts at Delaware Park in the last 3 years and just 1 win. So he doesn't really make this trip up there very often, but he does win at 32% with all domestic shippers and dirt route non-graded stakes, in the past 3 years. 30 wins from 95 starts. So definitely got to add that one on the ticket. But I'm just so interested in Kentucky Outlaw. And another horse that was wildly interesting is this 10 Pascaline, a West Virginia bred that was bought at Tattersall's. What, like what? Like, how did that even happen? Owned by West Point. Just really interesting horse. I didn't put him on the ticket. I don't know if a mile and 16th is really going to be his wheelhouse, is how I saw it. What did you kind of think about that horse?
Number 9. They add blinkers as well for Arnold Delacour. The 99 speed figure was definitely interesting. 2 back, going 7 furlongs. I just kind of got to the place where I didn't want to go too deep on the. I don't like to go too deep on my tickets, so you got to
Same.
make cuts. And if I'm using those 2 6-to-1s, I'll never talk anybody off of a 10-to-1 who has shown some success earlier last year. Just hasn't been able to come back. And when you finish behind Kentucky Outlaw,
Yep.
I've kind of landed on that horse, especially who was 2-to-1 on that day at Monmouth. I decided to go with Kentucky Outlaw.
Exact same thinking. I guess that's why we have the same first leg. Colin and I both going with 2-3-6 in the inaugural running of the Delaware Derby. Let's move on to second leg, the Grade 3 Delaware Oaks, mile and 16th on the dirt for 3-year-old fillies. Race 9 in Saturday's car with a post time of 4:51. Last year's winner was Power Squeeze for trainer Jorge Delgado with Javier Castellano aboard. Went on to win the Grade 1 Alabama next time out last year. Very nice field of 9 in here. But anyway, who is on your ticket for the second leg?
Well, I'll start with Fondly, who's not on my ticket, but this is a horse that I was absolutely really high on going into the Oaks. And I learned a lesson because Fondly was a horse after I saw her run in the Virginia Oaks. I immediately went in and put in a Oaks Derby double, Fondly Sovereignty.
Well, that would have been. That
and
would have been.
I had Lacara Sovereignty too. Lacara just won on the wrong day for me.
Yeah, wrong day to beat Good Cheer.
And I left Good Cheer off of my Oaks Sovereignty double only because of the price. I think it was only 7-2 on that weekend. But Fondly was one that I saw that performance and I went, okay, that was really nice grind down the stretch. And, obviously didn't perform as well in the Oaks. Comes in here and I thought, when you first told me we were doing these races, I was like, okay, I guess I know who I'm using. And then when I went through the PPs, something kind of dawned on me in the back of my mind, which is American Promise was a horse who I was also high on that Colonial Downs weekend, who had a big performance on that day. And Tim on my channel keeps teasing me saying he's not a horse. And that day was funky because that was the meet that they only had like 3 or 4 days and the track was really fast.
It was like right during NHC. It was what, end of March that was?
Yeah, it was the one that they added in. And I remember the track really being speed favoring on that day. And so I'm kind of a little skeptical of Fondly in this position. Irad's aboard again. I'm going to leave her off. And I decided that my top pick was actually going to be the number 5 here, Paris Lily. This horse was second in the Grade 2 on the Black Eyed Susan, behind Margie's Intention, who's back here in this race as well. This is a Brendan Walsh trained horse with Joel Rosario aboard.
And Brendan Walsh used to have Margie's Intention as well.
I thought that he just went too fast last time out versus the number 4. It was on the front end, went 22:46, and that race was 1 1/8 over a sloppy track. And to me, that was just too much of a grind for Paris Lily. I thought the horse finished really well considering was on that front end, being only pressed a little bit. So I just think it was kind of a ride that the horse didn't necessarily need to run, and Margie's Intention was able to sit off and close and beat her in the stretch. Well, they're going to cut back here going 1 1/16 instead of that 1 1/8. And I think that really sets up nicely for Paris Lily to hold that speed on the front end and be able to get up and hold off maybe Margie's Intention, who will be closing late. There's a little bit of speed. The 2, the 3, and the 5 are the 3 that I had circled as my early speed presence. But I thought that last race was really nice from this horse. Comes back, less than a month, 3-year-old with ascending figures. Just that progression that you kind of just want to see if you're a speed figure player. And so that's where I went, is Paris Lily on top. And then I decided to use a little bit of a price with the number 3, Complexity Jane. This horse has a 5 furlong bullet workout within the last 7 days, which is something that I like to see. Last 3 years on the dirt with a 45 or longer day layoff at the Brittany Russell, 12 for 36, 33%. Throw the stat in at Delaware. That's at Delaware. Sorry, 12 for 36. Add the jockey, and she's 5 for 8 with a plus 25 ROI.
And she's already 3 for 4 in this meet at Delaware.
Yeah, so playing a little bit of the angles here with the jockey trainer coming back. She's really good off that 1 to 2 month layoff. Really good when she's won her last race. She's a really strong trainer, and that has carried over to the Delaware track. And the Dam is 3 for 8, 38% win percentage, going dirt routes with a plus 193% ROI. So to me, that jumps right off the paper as these connections can get some of these prices home in races like this. Horse that figures to also be on the front end, maybe if it's going to win, is going to go wire to wire. But also in that first race, it was only 6 furlongs over the mud, did show the ability to close after having a rough start. So not necessarily beholden to needing to be on the front end. I'm going to try and get by with just the 3 and the 5 here.
Okay, I love it. I love it. You know, I kind of crossed that horse off, but you're kind of talking me onto her a little bit more. But I also, like Colin, like to keep mine a little bit light, so I had to throw in Margie's Intention instead. But I do agree with you on Paris Lily. I do think that's your winner. Morning line of 9-2. I was actually, I'm all in for that. Godolphin Homebred by City of Light, Brendan Walsh, Joel Rosario coming in to ride. Has been aboard Paris Lily in her last 2 starts. Rosario has just 3 mounts in the card, so I think it's kind of safe to say he's coming in mainly to ride this filly. Starting her career at Churchill, finishing 4th, and breaks her maiden going a mile on the dirt at Churchill, fighting back to win by a head at the end. So I think that was huge. That was huge. Goes to Fairgrounds for the winner, runs 7th in the untappable, mile and 70 yards in dirt. Takes a slight layoff, comes back to run 2nd, and allowance optional on the turf to Fion, who has won 2 stakes races since, including the Grade 3 Regret Stakes last time out. It's on the turf, but comes to Keeneland to run in the slop, going a mile and 16th, winning by 3/4 of a length. Then runs at Pimlico in that Grade 2 Black Eyed Susan, like you were saying. And I 1,000,000% agree with everything you just said. It went out a little bit too fast. A mile and 1/8 is that's brutal to go out there, especially in the slop. And just got caught literally in the last 16th. So this turn back in distance, I think, is just going to be perfect. Since breaking her maiden, those 4 consecutive increasing equibase speed figures. And here's a fantastic race lens angle for you. I encourage everybody to add this to your angles. But horses trained by Brendan Walsh and owned by Godolphin win at 40% in stakes races in the past 5 years. 35 wins from 88 starts is 69% in the money with a plus 26% return on investment. So that right there is worth a bet, in my opinion. But my second pick, I'm going to go with Margie's Intention. More line 5-2, and she does look very tough in here for Brad Cox. Luan Machado coming a very nice win in that Grade 2 Black Eyed Susan, but she did have to work quite a bit at the end. But that was her first win since switching to the Cox barn from Brendan Walsh. So all out trying to catch Paris Lily and was able to rally late. Ranked first in average speed with a 91. Ranked first in average class with an 84. Consecutive increasing equibase speed figures at every start of her life. Only finished out of the money once, and that was on career debut. The past 5 years, Cox and Machado went at 30% in all races together. 14 wins from 46 starts, 63% in the money. This duo knows how to find the winner's circle. I just had to add her, but if I had a single, I think I would definitely go with Paris Lily.
Yeah, I kind of built my ticket around Paris Lily, and I bet before I did my ticket before the morning lines came out, and I thought that he's actually going to be like 3-1, 4-1, so 9-2. At least when I'm putting together my ticket and I'm thinking I'm taking a shorter price, that's why it's all about ticket structure in the doubles. You have to be daily doubles are the perfect place where you get comfortable losing, because it helps make you get better at betting. And so you're understanding that if you're going to use Paris Lily, to me, I'm not going to use Margie's Intention. That's where you want to have an opinion and kind of pick one or the other. And in daily doubles, you're not betting a ton of money, or maybe you are. At least if you're starting to learn the game, you're not going to bet a lot of money. You can look at what your payouts will be and make sure that you're not putting together losing tickets. And then that's just the strategy that I use. And when I had Paris Lily, I go through and I say, okay, is there another horse that I want to use? To be quite honest, this morning when I finished my notes the first time, I didn't have the 3 on. It was just use the 5 and single here and then go back. And that's when I picked and told you I'm okay using those shorter prices in that first leg, knowing that I was singling in the second leg. Then when I saw the prices and I saw that 3 was 8-1, and I saw those stats, Brittany Russell, I figured I'd add that in because it wasn't a huge spend, where you can't really do that as much in a pick 4, pick 5, because you're immediately doubling the whole cost of your ticket. And that's where you might get a little worried about not wanting to lose. If suddenly you go from a $24 to a $48 ticket just because you want to add a horse, you have the advantage of playing these doubles and using that as a good springboard to learning how to put together multi-race bets.
Well, the king of daily doubles himself laying down some wisdom for all the inside track fans. I love it. I love it. Well, there is Colin's daily double ticket on the bottom there, 2-3-6 with 3-5, and pretty similar. I'm going with 2-3-6 with 4-5. That's all the time we have today. Thank you, Colin, so much for being on. Good luck in all your wagers next week or this weekend, and we'll see you next week.